NFL free agency is still alive and well. We're not even 2 weeks into free agency, actually, believe it or not, even though it feels like it's been 2 months. But there are still some very notable names out there that the Falcons could sign. So on today's show, we're going to look at the top 10 free agent targets for Atlanta, some of the best names out there, and guys that make a lot of sense for the Falcons' biggest needs. Now, let's go from 10 to 1, starting with Calais Campbell, number 10, the longtime Baltimore Raven. He's getting up in the age column, but if he's got a little juice left over, maybe he would be interested in taking his talents to Atlanta. Now, Campbell visited the Falcons this week. They haven't signed him. To me, that maybe signals that the meeting didn't go swimmingly well, or maybe it just went okay and they're waiting to see what their other options are. So definitely monitor this name for the next few days. Campbell, we all know, is a longtime NFL legend. With the Ravens particularly, he's been readily and available the last 4 seasons, only missing a game or two here and there. He's coming off 5.5 sacks. Ladies and gentlemen, that would be, I think, number 2 for the Atlanta Falcons last year. So if you could add him to your defensive line rotation, you won't have to twist my arm. Number 9 is not a typo. It is Chosen Anderson. Robbie Anderson changed his name. He is the new Chad Ochocinco. So Robbie Anderson, Chosen Anderson, comes in at number 9 because the Falcons need another wide receiver still. Say it with me. Frank Darby should not be handed wide receiver 3 going into training camp. They need to add more players, and I'm sure that they will, at least through the draft, but why not one more in free agency to get Desmond Ridder the best tools to be successful? Chosen Anderson last year was a bit of a troublemaker, for being honest. Went from the Panthers to the Cardinals. Never really meshed with Arizona all that well. They cut him to save some cap space. 282 yards and 1 touchdown. But we know that he's had some great years and stretches in his career, so maybe the Falcons could tap back into that 2019 version of Chosen Anderson. At number 8, I'm going to go with Marcus Peters, the Ravens cornerback who was a former first-round pick for Kansas City, then traded to Baltimore, and he's had a very good and long successful career. He had an injury 2 seasons ago, so with him getting on the wrong side of 30, I believe, at this point, that could scare some teams away. But why not bring Peters in, right? He's on the older side, like we mentioned, but I think he and A.J. Terrell would form a very strong CB1, CB2 partnership. And then you get to move Casey Hayward to be the slot corner potentially, see how that works out in training camp. Sorry, Darren Hall, but I think this room could use a little bit of TLC. Now, we've got some more names to look at in just a brief moment. But first, I want to hear from everyone watching right now who you want the Falcons to sign next. I'm very curious, honestly, to see the pulse of the Dirty Birds. So this is the pinned comment on today's show. Scroll on down and give me a name. Moving on to number 7, Frank Clark, the postseason hero for the Kansas City Chiefs. Originally with the Seahawks, then went to Kansas City, and he was very reliable for KC. Last season, 5 sacks, 39 tackles, 8 tackles for loss. Not bad at all, and I think right now the Falcons can't look at any player and think that they are above him or something like that. Clark also plays his best when the lights are the brightest. Fun little NFL trivia fact for you. If you want to go and look up the NFL postseason sack leaders, Frank Clark, I believe, is number 2 or number 3 on that. So if Atlanta has goals to play beyond Week 18, Frank Clark could be a really good addition to help them win a postseason game or 2. Number 6 is Kenny Golladay. I put him number 6 this morning before I had anything to eat. Now I wish he was number 11 because Kenny Golladay, I think, is probably toast if we're being honest. You could take a shot on him for a 1-year contract and see if there is that 2019 form of him somewhere deep inside. But he was an absolute bust of a signing with the New York Giants. Look at what he did the last 4 seasons. 2019, 1,100 yards and 11 touchdowns. I think he even led the NFL in touchdowns in 2019. But in 2020, he only played 5 games. And then since then, he's been more or less described as a bit of a cancer for the New York Giants locker room. That might be a little bit harsh, but he's had some work ethic called into play, so he has not been good. He has not been productive for the Giants. But at the same time, when you look at this wide receiver room, Matt Collins at wide receiver 2 is borderline okay. Is it great? Absolutely not. So if you can sort of resurrect old Kenny Golladay, and he's not even that old if we're being honest, he's under 30 I still think, then maybe it's worth a one-year flyer and you see if it works out early on. If not, he'll be a prime cut candidate in like November or something. So pick a wide receiver for me. 2 guys that have had great success before, just haven't seen it in a little while. Who would it be? Chosen Anderson. I kind of want to go Chosen Anderson just because his name's Chosen. Or Kenny Golladay, who's got the much higher ceiling in his career. Give me the initials down below. And hey, while you're giving me your best guess, I'm curious if you have not subscribed to please go ahead and do so because we're trying to reach 11,000 subscribers here at the channel. We crossed 10K, a really nice milestone here on the YouTube side of things, but we want to keep pushing the envelope. We want to get to 11,000, so hit that sub button if you have not already. All right, moving on to number 5, Jadeveon Clowney. Maybe these order are really out of whack because I don't think Clowney is probably the 5th best player the Falcons could sign. But hey, if we know one thing about Jadeveon Clowney, it's that he really loves staying close to home. The South Carolina native could be looking for a homecoming of sorts. I also remember there being a bit of buzz last year about Clowney potentially going to the Atlanta Falcons in free agency. At the end of the day, Clowney's number 5 because edge is still the number 1 need for the Falcons. There is just no way that they could have any sort of overkill at this position, right? For how bad they have been for 20 plus years, bring all the guys. There's no such thing as having too many pass rushers on this team. Now, Clowney's had an up and down career. The former first overall pick, just 2 seasons ago, 9 sacks, 11 tackles for loss with Cleveland in 14 games. But last year, he missed some time, 12 games, only 2 sacks. He never really caught on with the Titans or the Seahawks all that well, but I think he's a bit of a homebody. He wants to stay close to home, and maybe Atlanta can try and get back to that 2021 form of Clowney as he sort of approaches the end of his career. At number 4, I'm going to go with Shaquille Griffin, the Jags cornerback, who they released before free agency, and that was one of those moves where you go, are the Jags just being the Jags? Because I don't really get this. Shaq Griffin is a very good cornerback. Yeah, it's fun to save money and all, but not when you're winning playoff games. That's not a time to cut costs and try and save money against the cap. Like, sure, he didn't have a pick last year, but he's still proven to be a very good cornerback in this league, and I think him and A.J. Terrell would be a very good cornerback duo. And honestly, I still don't really understand why the league is sort of out on Shaq Griffin. So why not give him a 1-year prove-it deal, sort of like Kenny Golladay, right? See if some of these guys catch on a little bit playing indoors and playing in Atlanta. So I'm all aboard signing Shaq Griffin. I think him and A.J. Terrell would form a very good duo. At number 3, it is Leonard Floyd, the former Georgia Bulldog who went to the Bears and then the Rams, is a free agent as the LA Rams are in the midst of a rebuild more or less. He has been sneaky productive with the Rams. In 3 seasons in the City of Angels, 10.5 sacks, 9.5 sacks, 9 sacks, 3 straight years of 9 or more sacks. What are we talking about? Get him to Atlanta yesterday. This should be a no-brainer for the Falcons, if you ask me. At number 2, it's a name, and it's a big one, Odell Beckham Jr. Does it make sense? Maybe, maybe not. I think you can make the argument OBJ makes sense for all 32 NFL teams because he's Odell freaking Beckham Jr., right? We know what he is capable of. We know how great he can be. Fire me up on the OBJ rumors. They're the most fun thing for the NFL fan base in the offseason, to be linked to OBJ and to go through that roller coaster of, is he coming here? Is he not coming here? The last 4 seasons for OBJ have not been glamorous. You can blame the Baker Mayfield-led Cleveland Browns for a good chunk of that probably, for him not living up to the first-round pick trade potential or expectations, rather, the Browns had for him. But we all saw what he was capable of when he was with the Rams. He was scoring a touchdown in the Super Bowl before tearing his ACL for a second time in about 12 months. So that's definitely a concern. I don't really see the Falcons signing OBJ, if I'm being honest with you guys, but he would do wonders to help get Desmond Ridder along, form a very good duo with Drake London, and he's also not going to steal any precious, snaps or anything from any developing receivers like Mac Hollins, who is quietly on the older side, or Frank Darby. So it'd be awesome. No one's going to protest that. Having OBJ in your team would be fun. There'd be some baggage. There'd be some drama with it, but there'd be a lot of fun times too. So sign me up. Now let me know, should the Falcons sign OBJ? Give me OBJ for yes, or give me no BJ for no. Really curious where you guys stand on bringing Odell Beckham Jr. to Atlanta. So moving on to our number one free agent target. We've talked about him before on the show. It just makes too much sense. You got to sign Yannick Ngakoue, right? The former Indianapolis Colt, among many other teams, is probably the number one edge rusher still on the market. He needs to be a Falcon. I cannot stress this enough. The Falcons have to overcorrect on their pass rush deficiency this offseason. You did not hear that incorrectly. They need to overcorrect on it because there's no way that they can do just enough, right? They are so bad at finding pass rushers in the last 20 years. Go out and get everyone. Sign everyone. Sign Ngakoue. Sign Floyd. Draft someone at number 8. I don't care. Just get this spot right, because you have not, outside of one good season from Vic Beasley nearly 7 years ago at this point. Ngakoue the last 4 years has bopped around from one team to the next, originally with the Jags, signed with the Vikings, traded to the Ravens, then goes to the Raiders, then traded to the Colts, and look at what he's done throughout all that time. Different locker rooms, different jerseys, same numbers. 8 sacks, 10 sacks, 9.5 sacks. Get this done, Terry, right? When you look at the Falcons' defensive line depth chart, find a spot for him at the defensive end, kick him out to outside linebacker. If Nielsen's going to run a 3-4 front, I don't care. He needs to be a Falcon. Ngakoue, welcome to Atlanta. Say it with me, everyone. Ngakoue needs to be a Falcon. Get this done. They have just been so abysmal at pass rush, basically in franchise history, if we're being honest, right? There is no such thing as overkill for adding pass rushers this offseason. Kaden Elliss and David Onyemata, that's not going to get the job done. I want more. I want more pass rushers, more artillery, more firepower, more of everything. If they have touched a quarterback in the last year, I want them in Flowery Branch. Thank you. We were just about to get on out of here, and then I remembered I got some shout outs to give. So earlier this week, we asked for you guys to share our video on Twitter. Tag me in it or not. I'm going to find it one way or another. Might took some deep Twitter stalking, but you know what? The beautiful search function helped me out. So shout out to Matt Rabideau, Andrew Milevsky, Milevsky. I hope I pronounced that correct, Andrew. I'm sorry. ATL Falcons Talk, shout out to you. Thank you so much for your love here at the channel. And swinging is my life. Thank you guys for sharing our video. And hey, if you enjoy our content, share it to Twitter. Text it to a friend. Put it on Facebook, helps grow the channel, and in return, we get to get you guys more Falcons content. Now, go ahead and enjoy your weekend.